Guys, I'm not a Swiftie channel, alright? I swear, I'm not. But here's the deal. The Eras Tour is like huge right now. So to honor that, and to cater to the new subs I've gotten from the second stint of my original Taylor Swift video, I'm planning a very special series of deep dive videos for a bunch of her albums. And I'll be transparent with you guys, because we're homies. You know, we like to keep it a Washington around here. I really want to get tickets to see her, man, but they're like 2 G's. And as a college student who leeches off of his parents to pay tuition, my only source of income is this. So my hope is that with this series, I could maybe possibly get close to generating enough money to pay for tickets to see her. So if you guys wanted to, I don't know, like this video, maybe subscribe if you're new, you know, check out some of the other ones on my channel, all that good stuff to help me get the funds so that I can go see her, I'll love you forever. And wouldn't it be so cool to do this series talking about all of her albums and have the series finale be my concert video? Like, that's fire! But most importantly, just enjoy the video and the series. The people wanted more Swiftie content, so that's what they're gonna get. Go check out some other videos on my channel. Every view counts, genuinely. Do I anticipate being able to get the $2,000 that I'll need for tickets? Hell no. But the channel has seen a lot more traction lately, and I love a good underdog story. So why not try, right? Like, I got nothing to lose by at least trying. Anyways, without further ado, welcome to the first installment of what I'm calling the Eras Saga. Throughout my Swiftie journey that spanned the past 6 months or so, Lover is probably the album that I've listened to the least. Well, that and the Or duo, of course. So I thought it'd be the perfect album to start with. Lover, to me, is an album that seems like it wears all of its emotional depth on its sleeve, but I'm not sure that that's true. The standout attribute to all of these songs for me is easily the production, which I know is not exactly where Taylor's expertise is, but based on what they showed in Miss Americana, it kind of seems like it starts with Taylor coming up with the initial concept, and then her and Jack kind of just bounce ideas off of each other to flesh it out, and I assume from there he just works to construct it to her liking. So I'm sure she has some kind of hand in that production stuff, you know what I mean? This album has a sound that isn't revolutionary by any means, but it's definitely distinct amongst her discography. You have country pop Taylor, classic pop Taylor, then of course there's vocoder Taylor, and this is dreamy pop Taylor, or cute melancholy pop Taylor, I don't know. There's a lot of techie, dreamy-like synths, and her vocals are like cute and shouty, which tells me that with this album, she was just kind of having fun with it and not really setting out to make anything game-changing. My theory is that this album was motivated by 2 things. 1, after Reputation, you need some form of return to status quo. A PSA that Reputation was more of a phase, not a change. And 2, she was probably just a lot happier. You know, she's already proved herself as an artist, settled down with a seemingly nice guy, and of course buried hatchets, but kept maps of where she put them. The lyrics definitely aren't as deep on this album as they are on some other Taylor projects. Even when it does make a deep cut, like, it hits, but just not as hard as some of her other stuff. Not nearly as hard, if I'm being honest. I will say though, the ideas for a lot of these songs feel much more motivated. I mean, this album came out like right after she spoke out against that conservative lady, right? So with songs like The Man and You Need to Calm Down, it definitely feels like she's more confident about pushing a message instead of just telling a story. And those songs do hit, if I'm being honest. Sometimes it does feel kind of too public service announcement-y, but I totally get it. After Miss Americana, she was very clearly on a high or something. We teleported over to my desk. If you want to see a quick little room tour, that's where I film my videos, and this is where we are right now. It's a banger! So yeah, my room is pretty small. But it works. Welcome to Swifties Writer's Workshop, where we dissect some of Taylor Swift's hardest hitting songs and try not to cry. Today I want to dive into far and away my favorite song on Lover, which is Death by a Thousand Cuts. You see, with an album like Lover, you kind of know that you can expect love songs, right? But Death by a Thousand Cuts is the only breakup song on this album, which, as we all know, is Taylor Swift's specialty. But I think this particular song is interesting because a lot of Taylor Swift's other music is super personal, you know? If she's going through a breakup, she's writing songs about a breakup. But this album was written while she was in a healthy relationship. So a song like Death by a Thousand Cuts is kind of out of place. But I think because she's not writing something that's too personal, it ends up being a little more broad and all-encapsulating and a little more poetic, too. So let's just dive in. Saying Goodbye is Death by a Thousand Cuts. Flashbacks waking me up. I get drunk, but it's not enough, because the morning comes and you're not my baby. First off, I want to say none of these words actually rhyme, which I kind of like, because a lot of the times if rhymes are too perfect, it just feels very formulaic and like calculated. A lot of the times you can actually anticipate what word is going to come next because of a really obvious rhyme. Perfect example is whenever you hear a bar ending with kiss, you could probably expect mitts to be rhymed with it at some point. But here it feels like a genuine like piece of dialogue, you know, someone that something's saying, it just so happens to flow better because it sort of rhymes-ish, kind of. Also, the rhythm of these rhymes is a little more
dynamic. Most songs will tag their rhyme at the end of like the last beat of every line. So an example that I pulled up is a very popular song from TikTok, which isn't a bad song, but it's just an example of what I'm talking about. Every three, there's a rhyme. It was just two lovers sitting in the car listening to Blonde. And it goes like that for the whole first verse. So compare that, what I just explained, to Death by a Thousand Cuts. Saying goodbye is death by a thousand rhyme. Flashbacks waking me rhyme. I get rhyme, but it's not a rhyme. I feel like an idiot just like clapping, doing that, but I'm hopefully gonna add some sort of like visual on the screen that will help you understand what I'm saying more. I also really like how she cuts all the rhyming with, you know, you're not my baby, which kind of just makes it feel like, you know, it adds that tension that something's not right. Same thing applies for the next part when it goes, it's okay when it's not. They hit because it's the first line that doesn't rhyme. I dress to kill my time, I take the long way home, I ask the traffic lights if it'll be all right, they say I don't know. Pretty simple stuff. I think when you're heartbroken, you kind of tend to like wallow in your self-pity and you don't really want to go on to the next thing, right? So you're, you know, dressing to kill your time, taking the long way home, you know, it's all like things that are prolonging the next task, which is moving on. Or I guess confronting your emotions. And I see the traffic lights thing as being like, let's say in this particular scenario, Taylor is on a drive at midnight and she doesn't want to face her problems. She doesn't want to face her emotions. She's driving like 60 down this empty road, right? The only time that she would really second guess what she's doing, because she's just, you know, mindless, you know, trying to forget about it. The only time that she would second guess what she's doing is at a red light. So stopping her in her tracks like that is forcing her to confront her feelings. I don't really know if that made sense, but I'm just gonna keep going. I personally feel like the second verse slash bridge thing, you know, the format of the song is a little weird, but I'm just gonna call it the bridge, has some really corny lines, which I enjoy within the context of the song, but I really don't feel like reading to single out individually. But I really enjoy this last line of the first run through that goes, paper cut stings through my paper thin, paper cut stings. Paper cut stings from our paper thin plans. You know, the death by a thousand cuts metaphor is already explanatory enough. Like, I'd imagine death by a thousand cuts is probably the worst possible way to die, you know, when it comes to like being killed or whatever. Getting stabbed, getting shot, that's like quick and concentrated pain. Death by a thousand cuts is a slow death because you're bleeding out. And it's not concentrated pain, like in one spot. You know, if you get shot in your shoulder, ow, my shoulder, what are you gonna say? Ow, my whole body? I mean, that's how I see it. I don't really want to test it because I don't want to die, but theoretically, I think it makes sense that death by a thousand cuts would be the most annoying way to be killed. But I think that metaphor is similar to heartbreak in the sense that when you're heartbroken, you're not thinking about losing that person, you're more focused on all the little things that you've lost. The person that you do this thing with, you know, this person's laugh, this person's smile, whatever, right? So getting over them can literally feel like you're putting 1,000 little band-aids on 1,000 cuts. But yeah, tying it back to that line, paper cut stings from our paper thin plans. I don't really think I need to explain what the line means, but it's just cool, you know, because it ties it back to that like cut motif, but in a different way. And just sticking that on like on the bridge, you know, like kind of towards the end of the song really ties the whole thing together in a nice little bow. I honestly love this song because it's not too wordy. It's profound, but not pretentious, and fun, but not shallow. And the hook just fucking hits every time, bro. Saying goodbye is death by a thousand cuts. Like, that's the best fucking part of this entire album, all right? I don't care what anyone says. But as for my thoughts on the other songs on this album,
meh. A true banger. A banger in its purest form. I personally like the Shawn Mendes version better just because the production on that one is a lot fuller, and I also just really like duets. But this one's good too. Slapper! Meh, it honestly sounds like Lavender Haze, but worse. It's pretty solid. Probably in like my top 5 on this album, but I'm not really sure yet. Cute. Very cute. I literally just dedicated half the video to explaining why I love this song. Where's my fucking button? Oh, no. It's a banger! Yeah. We can go driving on my scooter. It's alright. Solid. Like, I really like the whoa thing, you know, and then the synths are cool too. Also pretty solid. But honestly, overhated, which I'll get into later. Kind of boring. Like, it's fine, but I would never actively choose to listen to this song, if I'm being honest. And a banger, but not in the traditional sense. I feel like Writer's Workshop took up a lot more space in this video than I was anticipating, but I really don't have that much else to add. I mean, I could break down more songs like The Archer or Soon You'll Get Better, but the truth is you could probably find that all over YouTube. Batk, though, that song just does not get enough credit. And like I said earlier, the album doesn't really have an insane amount of depth beyond those few songs, in my opinion. So I was at Target earlier today, and I made what our founding fathers might call a move. It has 2 different colored discs. It was only $27! That's a deal. Two discs. That's a deal. Target really came in clutch, bro. Like, look at this, bro. Walmart could never. I feel like since the start of this video, I've strayed from my initial question, which is Lover underrated? And I think my personal answer to that is no. A, because I don't think any Swiftie would ever say anything remotely close to being negative about any of her music. But that's why I'm here, you know? Your friendly neighborhood Swi. And B, while I think it's a super fun album, in my opinion, it's just pretty far from her best work. But I do think it's also important to take intent into account. Like I said this earlier, but I really don't think that she set out to make her best album. It's pretty clear to me that she was just having fun. How else would you get a song like Me? Listen, I know that everybody hates me, and I do too. That shit sucks. But I will say, I don't really have a big problem with it, because let's say I wrote a song about pizza, right? And it was just really cheesy. You wouldn't take that seriously, right? So why should this song be treated any differently? Like, for what it is, it's genuinely fine. I don't like it at all. But I also just don't like any PC self-empowerment songs. You know, especially with Taylor Swift, because I feel like I go to her music looking for the opposite. All Too Well, Back to December, you know, give me something that'll make me feel like shit. I'm kind of all over the place, but I guess my point is, let's not pretend that this song is really any different than Shake It Off, guys. Like, they're the same shit. I'm sorry, but they just are. Like, I want you to explain to me why you think Shake It Off is better. Seriously, do it right now in the comments. But back to the important stuff, I guess. Literally the day before I'm filming this video, news came out that Joe and Taylor broke up after like 6 years of dating. And I'm obviously not gonna get into that because it just doesn't feel, you know, it's too soon. But it does kind of help me see this album in a bit of a different way, because so much of it is so clearly about the relationship, you know, it was written amidst it. But after finding out that they're no longer together, I don't really get turned off to this album. The best way I can describe it is, it's kind of like Spider-Man 2, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I mean. I enjoyed this movie so much more on my rewatches than when I first saw it, because after I know how it ends, spoiler alert for a movie that came out a decade ago, Gwen dies, I see scenes like the bridge scene as even more beautiful, because it's just so pure, I guess. And I know that sounds really dark, like I'm comparing their breakup to accidentally killing the girl you love when trying to save her from falling to her death, but the truth is, every relationship ends. Like, literally every single relationship is gonna end at some point, but it doesn't mean that there wasn't real love there. You know, if anything, I think the fact that all relationships are temporary is what makes them so special, because it ends up being about what it means in the moment, not what it's gonna lead to or anything like that. And with both the bridge scene and Lover, you can see what it means to them in the moment. That got a little too serious for my liking. Editor Jason, can we throw in a few fart sound effects? Maybe a little walkie slush to lighten the mood? I'd probably give this album a 7.5, because, like, it does what it does well, but at the end of the day, the identity that this album has is just not my ideal album. It's not like something that I really like, so I just can't see myself putting it any higher than that. I think my biggest takeaway from re-listening to this album so many times was just how individualistic it is. Like, the production on this album really doesn't sound like anything else she's put out, except of course I Think He Knows and False God, because those are pretty clearly a precursor to Midnights. But for the most part, I think similar to like The Weeknd's Starboy, there's just a very unique sound that I think is encapsulated in this album. And the emotional cuts that this song does make, I think, are still really good. But anyways, let me know what your favorite song on Lover is, and where it ranks among your favorite Taylor Swift albums. Top 3, top 5. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. It helps out a lot, and it'll especially help me on my goal of getting enough money for concert tickets. $2 grand. I got a long ways to go, but I'm definitely motivated to give this series my all. So stay tuned for next Friday. I won't say which album it is, but it's a good one. Thanks for watching.
I promise that you'll never find another like me. I chimed in with the
Oh my god, shut up. This song sucks.